Hello, everyone. This is Logan with 1584 Adventure. It is currently the 30th of December, 2024, just one day away from 31st. So we're looking for a good new year. It's been a while since we did a podcast. Dad got a job guiding in South Texas, so we should have some good stories when that gets done. But I have a very special guest here. So my dad's a legend. What does that make my mom? Georgina Holzmeyer.
The epitome of legend, I guess.
All right. So today I'm going to be interviewing my mom, and we're going to see how that goes.
Should be interesting, I think.
All right, Mom. So, what was your first hunting experience ever?
My first hunting experience ever was a long time ago, and I cannot remember. I was young, probably 9-ish, maybe 10,
Okay.
might be a little younger. And of course, I don't remember where we were, but I went with Dad, and we sat up in this tree in the stand.
Dad being my
Yeah,
grandfather,
yeah, my dad, Leon Stewart, Alex's and Logan's Gramps.
who will be a future guest on our podcast once we get that worked out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, so we were hunting, and the stand that we were in was like on one end of a draw, and there were cedar trees around. I remember that much. And so Dad, Gramps, and I were sitting in the blind waiting. And at the other end of the draw, a little spike stuck its head out from behind a cedar tree.
Okay.
So obviously I got all excited. Gramps didn't get that excited. It was nice to see a deer, but it was a spike, and it was like a yearling spike. This was
Yes.
not something that needed to be gotten out of the gene pool. Okay. Yeah, this was not a call buck by any stretch. And it seemed like it took forever for that little deer to come out and get into range. But Gramps did end up shooting that deer. And that was my first deer hunting experience that I can remember.
Okay. So, some of y'all might not understand how wickedly cool my mom is. And that's mainly because no one knows about her. But my mom has gone around Texas and done all kinds of shooting sports, has done shooting competitions, archery, has hunted some really cool places. And she kind of flies under the radar as being that kind of person, especially with some parts of that we'll get into later in the episode. But the, like the archery stuff, I don't have any memory of you being archery, but you have multiple archery trophies, and Dad said you were highly ranked in the state of Texas for a
For
couple years.
traditional, yeah, for traditional archery.
So how did that come about?
Well, when your dad and I got together, and we were dating at that point in time.
So this was pre me.
This was pre Logan, yes, by a few years actually. And your dad liked to hunt and liked to shoot archery at that point. And um, Alex was around at that point, and we, it's one of those things. We would go to trade shows, not trade shows, trade days.
Okay.
Okay, trade days. All right. Weatherford used to have a really cool trade days, the first weekend of every month.
Okay.
And yeah, that's an old timer story for you there. But it was really cool. It's kind of like a swap meet trade day, and we would do flea markets and pawn shops and stuff like that, and came up with a bear grizzly.
Okay.
Okay.
A bear grizzly being a longbow.
A recurve.
Or recurve.
Yeah,
yes.
It was a recurve bow. And it's beautiful. It's green, which happens to be one of my favorite colors. And I still have that bow. And it's like a 55-pound bow. I can't remember.
So did you choose it, or did Dad say, hey, look at that bow?
I chose it.
Okay, good.
I chose that bow because I like the color of it. I like the feel of it.
A typical girl. It's pretty. I like it.
It was pretty, and it felt good. When
All
I
right.
picked it up, it fit my hand and it fit my draw length and all that good stuff. So it was a great bow. I love that bow. I still have it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would set up. We lived in Cleburne. We lived in town on Buffalo Creek. It was about as country as you could get living in town because
I
there were
mean,
no
y'all,
neighbors behind us. We had the creek on.
according to Dad, he was wielding dual BB-6 guns, killing rats and stuff in the house.
Oh, the raccoons were, yeah, armadillos. You never knew what you were going to open the back door to.
Hmm.
Because, like I said, there was no neighbor behind us. And the way Buffalo Creek runs right there next to Willingham Street,
Okay.
okay, it curves there and goes back toward the police station and the fire department in Cleveland.
Mhm.
And so there's like a whole like half city block that's not developed even to this day.
Yeah.
So there was just nobody around.
So you had the area to shoot it as well.
Yes, we could shoot it in that area as well. And they weren't maintaining the creek bank back then. The only way the creek bank got cleaned was when Dad and I cut down the careless weeds and the crap and kept it cleaned off just to kind of keep the critters down a little bit.
Okay, so you bought this bow at a trade day
Mm-hmm.
and you brought it home.
Mm-hmm.
Had you ever had any experience shooting bows?
No, that was my first time shooting bows.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know Dad and Grandpa Bob were both very experienced by this point shooting archery because Grandpa Bob had made several bows even by that point, I thought.
You'll have to check with Dad on that because I think we kind of all got in it together at the same time. Now,
Okay.
Dad had been shooting archery because he would go up to Arlington
Mhm.
and shoot at an indoor range up there. And it's just been too long. I've been in there too. I think it was Arlington.
This was before me. This was over 30 years ago.
Yeah, this was a long time ago. And that was a really cool shop. And the guy that owned it was a bit of an ass, but at the same time,
I've been to that shop, so I know.
yeah.
Dad
if you
even
were
warned
serious about archery, he treated you fine.
me. Yeah.
If you were an idiot off the street, he was going to be an ass because he's got better things to do. Okay.
Yes.
I get it. And so I know Dad was shooting when we met. I don't think Grandpa Bob was at that point in time.
Okay. So was Dad shooting what kind of made you think to buy the bow, or was it just that bow's pretty? Is it, oh, I can buy that bow and we can go do this together, or I just wanted that bow and then it turned into this?
It was something we could do together.
Okay.
And I preferred the traditional archery equipment based on, I just didn't like compounds.
Mhm.
They were too modern. I'm very much a bit of an old soul Renaissance type.
Yes, you are. That's something we'll go over later in the episode. We'll get into that part of the legend of Georgina Holzmeyer.
I think Dad had a compound at that time and probably shot it once or twice and just did not like it.
Yeah, Dad and I have kind of had discussions on the compound thing because, like, the one I got from Gramps, he thinks was his previously, but it was a PSE, so the chances of that is almost zero.
Oh, yeah. And I couldn't tell you all the different bows that we've owned.
Yes. Okay, so you got this bear.
Got this bear. Love it.
And bear needs no introduction in the archery world.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first competition? Well, actually, Dad teach you how to shoot, or did you learn from someone else? Because this was back, it wasn't as easy to learn this if you didn't know someone back then.
Well, no,
because there wasn't YouTube or any of that.
Yeah, there wasn't YouTube or any of that shit. Okay, the internet wasn't even here at that point.
Yeah,
basically. Okay, email was a brand new thing at this point. Okay,
BlackBerry hadn't even been founded yet.
Yeah, BlackBerry hadn't even been founded yet. So, god dang, that makes me sound ancient, and I'm not even 60 yet, so that's silly. But anyway, it was. He had been shooting, but that's another key thing with traditional archery. You pick up a bow and you shoot. It doesn't take a lot of instruction. It's very intuitive, honestly.
It is.
And because Dad had a lot of books.
Yes.
And
there's always been a library here to learn anything you want.
Anything you want.
Hunting or anything.
Yeah. And so read a lot of the books, a lot of the magazines. Three Rivers Archery had just more or less opened at that time too. Okay. And of course, if you're in archery, you know who Three Rivers is, especially if you're in traditional archery. We did make our own arrows,
Yes.
cedar arrows. Yes. So yeah, Dad was there. Okay,
So
I'll be
Dad
honest
was
with y'all. Dad is not a good teacher. He
I'm
does.
aware. I am his son, so I understand some of that.
Yeah, he is
But
not a good
Dad
teacher.
being there helped elevate you to.
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah. And the fact that he wanted me to participate with him was a huge thing.
And one of Dad's things is, if he's a level 100, he wants you to be there with him at level 100.
Yes,
So he
which
is going to
causes
help
some of
you.
the teaching issues.
It does, but it's also having someone like that in your corner that truly wants that level
hmm
for you is always a good thing.
Yeah, you always want your coach to want you to be better than they are.
Yes.
And I do feel that way about Dad. And so it was kind of a give and take type instruction, if you will. And we were in the backyard,
Yeah.
So shooting. So we could shoot every day.
Yeah.
Depending on weather. And weren't having to pay lane fees and stuff like that. Because I was trying to think. Alvarado Archery obviously wasn't in business at that point. So when we were pretty much having to mail order supplies to make arrows and stuff like that. And then
Dad bought the first Black Mamba out of a catalog.
Yeah.
It came in, I think, to where he was working.
Yeah. In fact,
because it couldn't be shipped to the house. I had to go to
a business.
A business.
It had to be a business address. Yeah. So, it's that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your first competition? Do you remember?
No, not specifically enough. Because we would shoot and we would go out to Grandpa Bob's house out in East Texas. He lived outside of Emory.
Okay.
Out there by Lake Fork in that area. And so we would meet up with him and go out there on the weekend and shoot out at his place because he had a few acres out there. And then once we felt like we were good enough, I guess I started tagging along and I would shoot the women's division of whatever Dad was shooting.
And was there a lot of competition in the women's area? Or was there enough competition to be fun? Enough people there?
Yeah, for the most part, I would say yes. Now, obviously, the women's division didn't have nearly as many competitors as the men's division did.
That generally never
does. And the competition categories were based on the equipment you were shooting.
Yeah.
Unlike shotgun sports, you have a classing system.
Yes.
But with archery, it was about the equipment you were shooting. And most of the women that I saw at that point were shooting compounds.
Okay.
Because they're easier to hold.
Yeah.
Once you break over,
then
once
you're
only
get that
holding
break
about 30-40% of
yes.
that draw weight. Whereas with a longbow or recurve, you're holding 100%
yes.
of that draw weight. So it's a little different muscle usage and things along those lines. And I cannot remember. The one we went to the most often was down in East Texas, and I cannot remember the name of it. It was held on the grounds of an old church camp.
Okay, Dad's mentioned that one.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to talk to Dad about it next time.
Yeah, we definitely will. And the IBA, which was the International Bow Hunters Association, if I remember correctly, used to do one up off of Spur 408.
Where Defender is.
Defender in that area, yeah, but then
because Dad said several times that's where you used to drive for that competition.
That was one of them, yeah, and just we would go wherever you could find one.
Yeah,
it's kind of like my paranormal hunting, wherever you could go find to do that, you did it. And the one that was held on the old church campgrounds, I probably remember more than any other, just because it was such a cool area and they had great targets. They had running deer targets, and I'm using air quotes, but
the
running
we'll work on the air quote thing.
It was basically it was a manned target station.
Yeah.
So there was one guy pulling a pulley as this paper.
He was behind a place you couldn't
Yeah.
shoot him.
You know, and some of the targets were paper. Most of them were actually 3D.
Yeah.
And 3D targets are basically 3D animal targets, and they had everything from alligators. There was always at least one alligator.
There's always an alligator.
Turkeys in full strut, turkey hens. You know,
I remember when Dad and I did Cowtown that one time.
Yeah, that's another one.
There was an armadillo target, and you expect an armadillo target to be a foot long. No, this thing was 5 foot long, 3 foot tall. And I want to say it wasn't challenging because of the size, but at the end of the day, it was 30 yards away in a little area. No one knew what it was till you walked up on
to it and saw that it was an armadillo.
And 3D archery is fun.
It's a lot of fun. And shoot, these days they even have Bigfoot targets.
Yes.
You can buy
there's even a T-Rex one.
Is there? Oh, I hadn't seen that one.
I want one so bad. You know, Gander Mountain used to have the Velociraptor 3D archery targets. And I want the T-Rex one. I want it coming out of the woods.
To come
one day I'd pack it full of tannerite and blow its head off.
Probably so.
Okay, so first competition you go in. I don't know. Did you place? Did you win? Did you set a record?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, this
for
is
being a first one, I probably did not place.
Okay.
If I did place at all, it was probably the top 10. I've got several where I did place first. I placed first in 3 or 4 of the IBAs.
I was going to say, you had several. You had trophies from these places that were not participation trophies.
No,
I mean, you got one that's a cutout of a wolf with an arrowhead glued to it.
Isn't it cool?
It is.
Those were some of the coolest trophies. Some of the other ones.
When I was a kid, I thought that was the coolest trophy. I'm like, Dad, that's a cool trophy. Where'd you learn it? Where'd you win it? Ask your mom because she won that one.
Yeah, and there were a couple that were like cow skulls. Ceramic versions.
Yes.
Small cow skulls. Yeah, I think I've actually packed all of those away.
So, how many competitions did you do? I know y'all kind of. I think about the time I came about, kind of fell out of doing that just because new kid and all.
Yeah, we would shoot 3 or 4 a year.
Okay.
Dad shot more than I did, obviously, and Grandpa Bob would join us, and we would go shoot at competitions together, as well. In fact, I was 5 months pregnant with you the last time I bow hunted until you were probably 3 or 4 years old.
Okay. Well, that actually leads me into my next question. During this time, did you bow hunt with Dad? I know we both know Dad's story of bow hunting and Dad being being a really good bow hunt shooter, but being cursed for 20 years bow hunting.
With the bow, yeah.
Were you in the same boat? I don't know of any deer you shot with your bow, but I don't know if you've ever bow hunted either.
Yes, I have. No, I have not killed a deer.
Okay.
But we used to go down to Steiner Valley and go varmint hunting.
Yes.
And so
back when you could drive to the water.
Back when you could drive to the water and actually camp down there.
Yeah, this is a generation that ruined that for me. Because I can't drive to the water. They put up a pipe fence because people got stuck down there.
I guess. I don't know why they did that. But yeah, we used to go down there and camp overnight. And that's Corps land. So we could hunt with a Corps permit.
Yep.
And so we would bow hunt down there too. But yeah, I've shot like squirrels and raccoons.
Every little boy's trophy animals.
Yeah, all of that kind of stuff, I have shot at deer before. I shot at a doe on Reva's place when we were hunting there, but it was an equipment issue. Excuse me. But I can't remember what the issue was. It may have been my bow might have been too light because the other bow I shot was a Pinto.
I remember that bow.
That's the white one.
That developed a crack.
Yes.
And then we We actually sold that on eBay a few years ago as
Yeah.
a wall hanger.
And actually, now that we're talking about that, might have actually been the first bow that I ever shot because it was only like 30 pounds.
Okay, yeah, because it was 30
That
pounds.
makes more sense.
And I think in the state of Texas, 30 pounds is a minimum
Yes.
to hunt deer.
Yes.
And that is light.
Yeah. And I like that bow okay, but it was very long. It was
Mhm.
probably 6 foot long.
Oh, it was. I had to. The only reason we were able to sell it is because I was selling fishing rods at that time,
Yeah.
and I had to put two 4-foot boxes together.
Yeah, because the grizzly is only about 4.5 feet. So you could actually sit in a chair
And pull and shoot.
pull. You didn't have to stand up the whole time or go from a squatting position to standing. So yeah.
Okay. So, like I said, I'm guessing you can say yes or no. About the time I came about, that kind of slowly died just because, young kid and all.
Yeah. It's hard to do that.
And
Yeah.
archery, being competitive in archery,
It takes everyday discipline. You need to
you
be
have to
shooting
fire
every
like
day.
30 arrows every single
Every
day
day. Yeah.
to be competitive, which kind of leads us into the next statement, the next era of the legend. And yes, Mom did just giggle at being called a legend. And that is shooting sports.
Oh yeah.
Because that's really the big transition there. You transition from archery, kids, and then into shooting sports.
Mm-hmm.
So how did we even get into shooting sports? Because I have no clue. Because I was still young enough. I didn't have any interest in it.
Let's see, how did that go? Well, because
Was it a 4-H thing that they?
it was a 4-H thing. What happened was Alex had outgrown Little Dribblers. I coached Little Dribblers for 10 years.
That was one of your big things. You loved coaching
I love
little
basketball.
dribblers.
Loved coaching Little Dribblers. I coached 3 years when I didn't even have kids old enough to play there's 7 years difference between Alex and Logan. So I coached all of Alex's time frame and then 3 years between until Logan was old enough to play.
And that was almost all the way to 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I think 1 year you didn't because there wasn't a need.
Something like that. And I guess it was about that time because I would go coach and play Little Dribblers with you while Dad and Alex were doing the shooting sports.
Okay.
And yeah, it was a 4-H event.
I think it started when I was like in 2nd grade.
Probably.
Maybe 3rd grade. Because we were doing it in 4th grade.
That sounds about right because you're
that was when we first started going to Stanfield, when I was in 4th grade.
Yes.
And we had already been shooting.
Yes.
So okay. So Alex got into shooting sports. We know the conversation between Dad and Lonnie about semi-autos and Berettas. You shot a few times before you got your own 390. You got 391, right? Or you got 390 Optima?
I have a 391 Eureka Gold Sporting, and then I've got
you got
the 390 field gun, or is that a 303 field gun?
That's a 303 field gun.
It's a 303 field gun.
But you got that much later.
Yeah, those are the two that I shoot on a regular basis.
So you shot a few rounds. When Dad had the over and under, you would shoot the over and under before you had your Beretta.
Well, I had a little White Wing 20 gauge, side by side.
That was kind of community property.
Oh, I love that gun. It was so cute.
I loved it too.
Yeah. And that's probably the one I first started shooting with.
That is the one you first started shooting with, now that I think about it.
Yeah, when we were members of the Arlington Sportsman's Club out there outside of Rendon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And so did that. And you kind of formed a little clique with all the mothers there in shooting sports. And shooting sports is a very intense and thick community if you get it right.
I tell you what, it is definitely the other family. And we were shooting all the time. There were times when I would have to work, Dad would have to work, and we would send Alex off with another shooting sports family for a competition and then hook up with them at that weekend kind of thing.
And there's one time where Mom came picked Alex up, picked me up from school. Then we booked it to Arlington, and she got pulled over because she was going so fast. And as a cop walks up, I ask her if she's going to be shot because of how fast she was going. Because we just kind of had to get to practice. And I know she loves this story.
So silly.
But I'm not sure how, I was fairly young at that time still. I mean, I wasn't little bitty, but I was young enough. I wasn't paying attention all the time to everything.
No, you were probably 4 or 5-ish at that point.
Okay.
Maybe
I was closer to 7, probably.
6 or 7, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not real good with that stuff. I'm not a good mom in that way.
So you, like I said, you formed a little clique, and you and some of the moms went out and not hunted, but did competitions together.
Oh yeah.
Separately from us and
Oh yeah.
the whole thing. And you had how many friends doing that?
Well, the way that worked out was we would go down to state every year.
All right. Go ahead.
So we would go down every year. The state competition for 4-H state shooting sports is in San Antonio, and it's like a week-long event. I tell you, it's a bit of a marathon if you're shooting. Events every day, all day, depending on what you're shooting.
Especially trying to keep track of another kid who's not shooting.
Mm-hmm. And a couple of the people that were involved in the Johnson County 4-H shooting sports, which is what our group was, that's who we were also on the board for the state 4-H and also for that shooting complex, the NSSF and NSCA and all of the shooting associations and stuff. And so it just came up in conversation when they were planning the state competition, why don't we have a coaches shoot? And of course, at that point, Evelyn.
Okay.
Do you remember Evelyn?
I don't remember names. Like at this point, my entire life revolved around Transformers and stuff.
Evelyn and Galen were awesome, and they were part of the coaching staff for the Johnson County 4-H Shooting Sports Club. And they were both excellent shooters in their own rights and were heavily involved in all the organizations.
And we were in a very competitive organization at that
Very
time.
competitive.
I mean, they won state repeatedly.
Yeah, like it's crazy the level of competition and quality of shooters. In fact,
if you were going to be in that, do shooting sports and wanted to be in a competitive environment, that was the environment you wanted.
That was the club you wanted. There were a couple others that came with us, but for the most part, it was Johnson County. And so then, of course, Evelyn stands up and says, well, if you're going to have a coaches, are you going to divide it up into men and women coaches? And I think there was probably a huge moment of silence as everybody went, sure. But again, there weren't a lot of female shooters at that point.
There wasn't.
Even in the competitions. There were more in the competitions than coaching kind of situation. And so Evelyn comes back from that meeting and it's like, hey, ladies, what do y'all think about this? Who would be interested?
And Mom's hand
shot
up, broke the ceiling, and
Kelly Holder was right there at the same time. It was Evelyn. And I apologize, Evelyn, I cannot remember your last name at the moment. It was Evelyn, Kelly Holder, myself, Alicia Henderson.
Yep.
Who was the fifth?
Was it the Bass family? No.
No, Melissa wasn't shooting.
There's someone else.
And it wasn't Barb. Okay, like I said, this is a long time ago.
This is a long time ago. I know.
And it was a 5-member team. You had to have 5 members.
Yeah. I just remember it as it kind of being unique because y'all were kind of the only group I knew of where 5 mothers of the shooters showed up and shot and were competitive. That's the most part. They were competitive with whoever they were shooting against.
Yeah.
And they were all driven. Y'all would go do this.
We were competitive individuals on our own, regardless of what we were doing.
Yeah, it's very much a dream team situation.
Very much so was. And we were the first female coaches team.
Mhm.
Evelyn was not a mom, by the way.
Oh, she wasn't?
No.
Okay.
So we weren't all moms. And I cannot remember who that is. It's going to drive me nuts. I'll have to get on Facebook and look. Because it wasn't Rhonda. And it wasn't Renee. I'm going through all the moms in my head. And I need to be face on with a microphone versus.
Yeah. Okay. We're recording now.
Okay, good deal. Anyway, so yeah, we were competitive individuals in our own right. Doing anything that we were going to be doing, those 5 were going to be competitive individuals.
Yes.
And
also Miss Holder, Kelly Holder, was both my brother and I high school science teacher. Me
Yes.
2 years in a row.
yes, yeah, there's a lot of family history there with the Holders.
Yes. They are great.
Great people.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be a good interview one day.
Yes.
Definitely. Anyway, I got off track there. So we were so freaking fortunate. We really were, because Lonnie came over and coached once.
And Lonnie Mears.
Lonnie Mears, awesome dude.
Really good at helping in shooting sports and everything you needed. His son Travis Mears shot with Alex, and Travis was really good. I mean, Travis has Defender Outdoors now.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you all of those titles and awards and such, but and Lonnie was great about it. He's very supportive. And then John Henderson.
Yes,
was
John
probably
Henderson.
our number 1 coach, and Galen.
Yes.
Which was Evelyn's husband.
I don't remember Galen at all, but I don't remember Evelyn at all. John Henderson, and Lonnie Mears, and Big John.
Yes, John Montgomery.
Yes, those 3 are the primary people I remember.
I believe it.
And Tracy Powers, obviously,
Yeah,
just because Dad's, go around with Tracy all the time.
And then, of course, do you remember Lonnie Ford?
I remember Ford's and
Linda may have been the other one.
Linda.
Linda may have been the other mom on the team.
Hal and them. That's Hal. Hal's wife. Hoots.
Oh,
Dad.
Marina.
Lorena. Okay.
Hal and Lorena. Yeah, Cassie's mom. Kathy and Matthew, mom and dad.
Okay.
They're good friends. Not Matthew.
The problem is I knew him as Hoot my entire
I know,
childhood.
right? Yeah. No, Matthew is actually Cassie's husband. Will was who.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, yeah, it might have been Lorena. Anyway.
This has been a long time ago. Some of the people we're talking about have already, unfortunately, passed.
Right.
So this has been and we have done a lot since this.
Yeah, the kids were still in junior high and high school at this point, so it's been a long time.
All right, we are back. We had some minor technical difficulties. So, Mom, you and the clique.
Wasn't a clique. We were just, yeah.
So, y'all several competitions, and even after I got out of shooting sports, Alex graduated. Y'all stayed in touch, and y'all still shot competition with each other.
Yeah, Kelly and I, as a matter of fact, shot a charity shoot like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago. And yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to send out an invite, and I guarantee you every one of them would show up, and we would be able to shoot at Defender or someplace like that. In fact, Evelyn still shoots very regular.
Okay. And we've discussed shooting more often.
Yes. It was so good to go shoot. I think we made it out to Defender, twice this year?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because back when we were doing the shooting sports thing, when I really enjoyed that so much, we were out there every day practicing 4 days a week, and then we were shooting competitions on the weekend.
Well, like Travis said one time, to be competitive, it's a case of shells a week.
It's a lifestyle. That's what you do. You don't do other things. That's pretty much what you do. So
that kind of came to a close. I got out of it because various reasons. You still stayed in touch and still shot competition, and I still shot competitions occasionally. Not really competition, but I would go shoot.
Well, I think we stayed members for another year or two after that out there at Arlington Sportsman's Club, and they always had weekend shoots as well. So One weekend it would be 5-stand. One weekend it would be sporting clays. One weekend it would be trap. The
Okay.
next weekend ski. So,
But you got during this time you got your awesome Beretta
yes.
that will never fail you.
It will never fail me. I love that thing. It's heavy comparatively.
But you shoot it very well.
I shoot it very well.
I mean, Alex, his Beretta, his 391, he put 100,000 rounds through it at least.
Easily.
And Beretta is one of those things. Lonnie and Dad had that conversation about Beretta semi-autos. Lonnie told me, you need to get it.
It's the only gun to shoot.
And Lonnie was right, and Dad admitted it, and he still admits it to this day.
Yeah, that was a funny interchange, that's for sure.
So, but so that's a pretty good era. So
it was
gone
a blast.
through 2 eras so far, and during all of this, you've also been hunting kind of with us on the deer lease.
As much as I can.
Do you remember the 2 deer you shot up at the deer lease on Grams that we
Yes.
were on with Grams's?
The one that we're on now that we just got back on.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Ryla's place.
as I explained in a previous episode about this deer lease, we were on it for a couple of years with grandfather and my uncle, and it kind of came to an end for us. We moved on to do some other stuff, but Mom has an awesome deer hunting story during this time.
I don't know that it's so awesome. I got a little buck fever, I'm not going to lie.
Mom went hardcore is why it's awesome.
Now, and granted, I have a little depth perception issue evidently when we're on rolling terrain, but yeah.
So I'll lead us into the setup.
Okay, go for it.
So my mom goes to hunt my grandfather's blind, the one I'm currently hunting.
Mhm.
I have a blind deep in the gully. So, and Dad has a blind on the far end of the deer lease.
Mm-hmm.
Dad tells both of us, if you shoot, I will hear it.
Yes, he did.
And to give Dad credit, he deserves credit. 99% of the time, yes, he will. Because of the way this deer lease is, the
Laid
shape
out
of,
with
yeah,
the
the laid out of
directional.
it, he will. But it was like a 50-mile-an-hour wind night. It was high wind. I couldn't hear anything. So Mom goes to the stand. Dad and I go to our stands. When we get back, Dad stops me. Dad picked me up from my stand. We walk back together. We get back to the single wide because we stayed in the single wide that weekend. He goes, why is my truck there? I didn't leave my truck there. Did the wind move my truck? And Dad had a standard at that point, so it was on a hill. Then
I don't think I was privy to that part of the conversation.
Then cue Mom's story starting at getting to the blind. Got to the blind, sat down, and watched.
And watched for not terribly long, honestly. But this 4-point came out, and I guess technically that was probably the first year I'd shot.
Yeah, you just got your rifle, the Ruger Mark 77.
I love my 308 Ruger. It is beautiful, and it fits, and damn, it shoots beautifully.
It does.
I love it. But yeah, I guess I got that for Christmas, I think it was.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
It wasn't really, if it was Christmas, it was not an under the tree present because we got it from Downings.
Yes.
And you were there.
Yes.
Because you got your case with it too.
Yes. Yes. I do remember that. So, yeah. So anyway, the 4-point walks out, and it's not a terribly big deer, honestly. It's basically one of those little crab claws on each side, 4-point.
Yes.
I think it was was it even 6 inches tall? I don't think so.
It's either 1.5 years old or 2.5 years old. It's not super old. It's not even middle-aged. It is a legal deer in this county.
It is. It is.
And then Mom goes, bang!
Yeah, Mom drops it.
So quick she didn't even see it fall.
I shot it. I thought I hit it because I did hear the thunk, if you will, but I didn't see it fall, and I didn't see it move on because of the way the trees were set up there.
Mhm.
There's a little
Yes.
shrubbery type.
Well, I'm pretty sure it
Cedar.
was up against that big oak tree that's over in that direction because you shot it out of the right side of the,
Yes.
and there's some more mesquite, but there's two big old oak trees.
Yeah, and there's like little scrubby shrub type growth out there too.
Yes.
And so I honestly didn't think I hit it. I didn't even get out of the stand to go look because I didn't think I hit it. I was looking with my scope to see if I could see it laying on the ground, and I couldn't. I
Mhm.
couldn't see it.
The grass was about 2 foot tall.
It was a little tall, but I felt like I should have been able to see something,
Yeah.
and I didn't. And of course, my thought was, now this was before cell phones too.
Well, not really before cell phones, but this is still flip phone area.
And we
And
didn't,
this place, even today, with Verizon coverage, is spotty.
very spotty
If you have AT&T, which we are not an AT&T family,
or thing.
and we didn't have it. So calling someone was not an option. Now, you did try to call Dad, but it wouldn't go through.
Something like that. Yeah, it was that kind of situation. Oh, I think we actually had walkie-talkies at that point with a 2-mile radius, which should have been plenty. but
Well,
with
the problem is
wind,
we were in the gully and
we
the
were
wind.
down, yeah. Y'all were down in the gully and I was up.
Yes.
So that was the issue with the communication. So anyway, I'm sitting in there and here comes a bigger 4-point.
A victim. Another victim.
And I got dropped down on it and I shot it and I saw it go down.
Yes.
It fell in a different, I shot it a little sooner than I shot the first one. And when I say sooner, it was more to my left. So I was on it quicker kind of situation. And I saw it fall and I was like, oh, yay, okay, great. And tried to raise Dad on the radio or whatever, no communication. He didn't hear it like he said he would.
I didn't hear it. And
Logan did, and you were closer to me than Dad was.
Dad is better positioned, but I was closer.
Yeah. And so at that point, I had waited because that's what you're supposed to do. You don't get out of the stand and run down there to them. You want to make sure that they are actually dead.
Yes.
You want to give them time
To calm down,
to calm down.
go through the process. It is a process. You have to wait.
You can do.
And that's how you prevent getting headbutted by a half-dead deer.
We're gored. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I waited forever, it felt like, because in my head at that point, I'm thinking, Brian heard that. I just have to wait for him to drive from the back, get out of his stand, get in the truck.
Well, no, he didn't drive his truck.
Oh, he walked. didn't
Yeah, he walked because
He walked.
me and him were walking together.
Yes, because you were so young still.
Yeah, it was the first year I started hunting out of that blind by
By
myself.
yourself. Yeah. And so I waited forever and ever and ever, and it got dark. Dark. And I finally went, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go down there. And I went and looked, and sure enough, it was dead.
And then, oh, look, a bonus buck.
Well, and actually, now think about it. The way I shot him was a spine shot, actually.
Okay.
So not a great shot.
No, not a great shot. But I did that this year. It happens.
And so I had to shoot him again just because I'm not going to let it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm too compassionate.
No, we don't do that. I did that this year.
Yeah.
And just got to walk up, either shoot it or cut its throat.
Yeah.
Shooting it was the right idea.
Especially for me. Yeah. And when I dispatched him and was all excited because he was bigger. In fact, his Euro mount,
It's still in your office
it's in
somewhere.
my office. Yeah. I walked over to, I don't know, on the other side of him, and there's that first 4-point that I shot. And I feel bad because it was legal.
It's illegal. It's a
That
$2 county.
is a $2 county.
Even
This was
today.
Even today. And that was before antler restrictions.
There's no antler restrictions in that county either.
Even today, there's not.
Even today.
There should be. because-
No, there shouldn't.
I don't know. Anyway, there it is. Well, by that point, the coyotes had started up. Yes. And there were a lot of coyotes on that place at that time.
There was.
And so I got concerned that they were going to get my deer before Brian and Logan showed up, because they still hadn't showed up at this point. And it's easily an hour after I've shot that last deer. So an hour and a half or so since I shot the first one. And it was like, okay, how am I gonna, I gotta get these deer back up there. So I grabbed a rope. I guess I walked back up to the camp and got the truck.
You got because the way I was told this story, you got the truck, but the way you were walking to the stand at that time was through a little gate, and you didn't know about the gate on the side of the barn.
Yes, on the other side of the barn.
And that's where Dad's, because when you park the truck again, you parked in a different spot.
Yeah.
And Dad immediately knew it because it was 10 feet farther forward.
Yeah, God forbid somebody touched his truck. Let me tell you, you can breathe on that truck funny and he will know it. Okay. He is that way about his vehicles, and that's okay. That's a good thing. And so I got a rope out of the truck.
Yes.
Walked back down there, not really realizing how heavy these deer were.
There was not a thought process.
No.
This is hardcore mom mode.
Yeah, just reacting, gonna get it done, gonna get it taken care of, whatever it takes. And wrap the horn, got the rope wrapped around the horns on both deer and wrapped it around my waist and started walking toward camp and realized these are too freaking heavy.
You got halfway.
Yeah, I made it like halfway, but it was like they're so heavy. I can't drag both of these deer. I was in much better shape back then. I was a hell of an athlete.
Mom, it's not a long distance, but to drag 115, 120 pound deer that distance at the same time, you gotta remember you're dragging them, so it's got the friction on
it. It's dead weight.
Yeah. I mean, that's not something, that's why we call it hardcore mode, because I've got a couple belts in my hunting backpack that if I shot a deer in Steiner, I tie them to the opposing legs, and you have to carry out the deer. You have to go hardcore.
Well, and you have to realize I have no rigging experience either.
Yes. So Mom gave up about halfway, went back and sat down in the mobile home, the single wide, catch her breath. Dad and I get there about this time. We walk in and Mom goes, I shot 2 deer.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like just blase, shot 2 deer. It happened.
I don't think Dad believed me at first.
We didn't.
I really don't think he did.
Because you were probably way too exhausted, but you were too calm about it.
Yeah.
And then Dad told me to unload my gun and just wait there. And y'all two hopped in the truck, and y'all came back with 2 deer.
It was so bloody cold that night.
It was a cold weekend.
I think it was probably 22, 23 degrees by the time we got them up, and the wind was blowing.
That was a good thing because your deer didn't spoil.
They did not spoil. The wind was blowing probably 20 or 30 miles an hour. It was very miserable. And it was a double wide.
No, it's the same single wide.
Is it the same one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It was just a lot better shape back then. Even though it was not in good shape.
There was no electricity to this thing. There was no heat in it. It's not like sitting in
it's just a single wide.
It's just a single wide
with a particle board.
Yeah.
With a particle board floor. Yeah. It's a cheap single wide. At this point, it's deteriorated to the point where no one will sleep in it.
Yeah. So it's not like there was a comfortable heat. And Brian and Logan cleaned that and gutted both my deer that night. I tell you what, if the man didn't love me, it was obvious then, right? Oh my God, it was miserable cold. It really was.
So we kind of entered this time period where we weren't doing shooting sports. We weren't doing archery. I was kind of doing my own thing with high school. At that point, I had, athletics and all of that. We hadn't gone on the deer lease and archer.
Right.
So there was about a 5-year period where Mom didn't have a major hobby, at least on the surface.
No, Mom has a hobby called family.
Well, on the surface, because at this point I did not know about this hobby. This which leads us into the next era of the legend, which is ghost hunting.
Oh yeah.
So at this time we had Dish or DirecTV, one of the two. We had
Dish.
satellite,
It was Dish, yeah.
and that ghost hunting show always came on every Wednesday.
I was watching every one of them I could find.
It was the one with Taps originally that seemed to get you into it.
That's the one I enjoyed most. Ghost Hunters.
Yes.
Yeah, with Jason Hawes and the other dude.
I don't know his name.
Grant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I say I wasn't paying on the surface. Mom didn't have a hobby. Mom was preparing for a hobby, and this hobby has taken a life of its own and become a very important part of your life. And you have excelled in this hobby.
Oh yes, I love it.
So, what drew you to ghost hunting? And I will be honest, I am not interested in the ghost hunting.
Logan doesn't give a shit.
It was to the point where when Mom wanted to watch ghost hunting, I was generally should not be in the room because I would be mildly shitty about it because I like ghost hunting and there's better stuff to watch on TV.
Yeah.
But Mom has truly dedicated herself to this and has done really well.
I think so.
Even someone who doesn't like ghost hunting, I can tell you've done well and you're very passionate about it, but you are committed to it and not just committed to half-assing it.
Yeah, definitely. I it's one of those things I've always been interested in ghosts, the things that are paranormal. I've always been interested in that from the time I was in junior high, honestly.
Okay.
Always been interested in that. I was always hunting for the historical ghost stories.
And you are a very historical person.
I
you love
history. And that's a huge part of my ghost hunting paranormal activity is the historic value there. I did have an experience when I was young. I was probably 8 or 9-ish.
This was in the Blue House, right?
Yes. What you know is the Blue House. It wasn't blue at that point in time. It didn't even
Did it have the rocks?
It did not have the rocks
Okay.
at that time. It had the big concrete porch on the front at the time. And it had a carport. I don't know if you remember the carport.
I don't remember the carport because I had the front porch and the center porch kind of thing.
Do you remember the fireplace in the living room?
I don't remember the fireplace. I remember the Dearborn heater.
Okay. There was an actual fireplace there where the Dearborn heater was sitting.
Okay.
But Gramps took all of that out at some point. Okay. There was a little remodel job. And this is something that
there was a lot of remodel because these are two different houses Gramps joined together.
Actually, it was one house that he built onto.
Okay.
That they moved down here from Fort Worth.
Okay. I thought it was two houses. They brought like two 500 square foot and they put them together.
No. It was initially just one house and then he built all that extra onto it. And that's a common thing.
Back then? I mean, our neighbors did it.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, when you're talking paranormal investigations, paranormal ghosts, all that, one of the things that kicks off activity a lot of times is remodeling an existing home.
Yes.
And the home that my mom and dad, Granny and Gramps, purchased and moved down here from Fort Worth was an older home. It was probably built in the early 20s or 30s. And I think it cost...
Was it a Sears house?
It was not. It was not. I think it cost them a total of $2,500, maybe $3,000 for the house and to move it from Fort Worth to Sand Flats. Okay.
And that's about an hour drive.
That's what, probably 40 miles, 50 miles maybe?
I don't know the place I bought it from, but Fort Worth, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, a lot of backstory there. But in one of the phases of remodel, there used to be a wall between the living room and the kitchen.
Okay.
And at some point, before they built those 3 rooms on to the side where the dining room and their bedroom and bathroom were,
Okay.
my mom decided that she wanted that wall taken out between the kitchen and the living room to make a bigger space.
Yeah.
And my bedroom was the bedroom off to the left-hand side of the living room. The door to my bedroom was on the other side of the wall in the kitchen, if I remember correctly. Anyway, they took that wall out. The attic access, which was literally a 2-foot square hole with a piece of board over it cut into the attic,
Yeah.
was in the hallway that wall and kitchen made.
Okay.
Okay. And then my bedroom door was there. Okay. It's kind of a horseshoe shape from the backside. Anyway, during that time that they took out the wall, I was laying in bed late one night and something woke me up. I heard people talking outside my bedroom door. And so I got out of bed and opened the door, and there was no one there. And it was late.
Yeah.
So there shouldn't have been anybody in our house. And we didn't have a lot of people over all the time anyway.
Yeah. And this is in the middle of the country.
In the middle of the country, middle of the night.
The only person really near you is Pawpaw, Mama,
Mama,
and
Pawpaw, yeah.
the people across the street, maybe, if they were even there.
They weren't there yet,
Okay.
but the gardeners were about a half mile down.
Yeah.
There's nobody. Okay, it's that kind of thing. And I didn't think about it. There was no one there. I went back to bed, got up the next morning, and asked my mom at breakfast, who came over last night? And my mom was like, nobody. What are you talking about? And I said, well, I heard 2 men and a woman speaking here in the kitchen outside my bedroom door. She, well, nobody was here. You were dreaming. Okay.
Simple. Well, you got.
Makes sense.
I would, even if you told me that today, like, I would say
yeah,
someone's
okay.
dreaming.
So go back the next night, I hear the voices again. It's the same 3 voices, and it's 2 men and a lady.
Okay.
Right outside my bedroom door, which happens to be where the attic access is.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but that sticks in my mind.
Well, it was a different feature of that
it's just a
area.
weird thing. And I thought, those people are out there again. So at this point, I get out of my bed and I go look out my window first, because my window looked out into the yard where the driveway and the carport was.
Okay.
And I could see either mom or dad's vehicle in the carport, but I couldn't see any other vehicles where guests would normally park.
Yeah.
In that driveway. They weren't there. No one was there. No vehicles. So at this point, I kind of get a little concerned.
Yeah.
Still like, who the fuck? Okay. Excuse my language, sorry guys. Anyway.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
like
We're not monetized, so we can say whatever we want.
So I open up the door, and again, no one is there. And I was like, okay. So get up the next morning, and I tell mom again, I heard those people last night. Are you sure no one was here? And she's like, no, nobody was over here last night. Okay.
Okay, so this happened.
Mhm.
Did this just stay in the back of your mind forever, or was it you started watching ghost hunting TV shows and you realized, oh, that might have been what happened?
Pretty much. Because
So it's the second one.
the third time it happened 3 nights in a row.
Okay.
Okay. And the third time it happened, I paid closer attention to the conversation that I was hearing. And I could actually hear words this time because I was paying attention.
Yeah.
And they were basically talking about planning another meeting. Which night of the week, what time, like a Wednesday night at 6 or something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So this time, but again, at this point, I didn't bother to say anything to my mom.
Well, you're a kid,
I'm
and
a kid, and so I just basically put it out of my mind. And shortly thereafter, they put the wall back up.
Yeah.
Granny decided she wanted the wall back up.
Well, better kitchen space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's one of those things. Like this house they tore it down when I was like 10
Wow. Yeah.
because Alex was in high school at the time.
Yeah. That's
So-
timing is right.
I have memories of the house, but they're not super clear. Like, in this house, you never went through the front door. You always went through the back door into the kitchen,
Yeah.
into the dining room, which also kind of had the toy area, kind of, because there's
Yeah.
a
The
toy
toys were
chest.
in the dining room.
Okay, and then if you followed that, you went to a bedroom in the back, and then the main area, the living room, was a big square. I mean, I remember it being bigger than our current living room, but I don't know for sure.
It was probably a little bit bigger than our living room.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so it's just kind of interesting. This is Blue House, but Mom didn't grow up with it being blue.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with it being blue, and by the time we moved into that house, I started first grade
Okay,
in that house. We lived in several other rent houses before they bought that house.
okay.
All that kind of stuff.
So you start watching ghost hunting stories. This memory pops up. You watched. I mean, Mom was religious every Wednesday night from 2-3 o'clock when these shows started popping up to 10 o'clock every night.
Oh,
She
yeah.
would watch it.
Yeah.
When the Ghost Hunter came on for a marathon, that was the only thing she'd want to watch. When the Ghost Douches, that's not the real name, but that's the only name we acknowledge, came on, she loved them. When did you decide you needed to go do that? To go do a ghost hunt?
Okay.
Because I don't remember it, because, like I said,
You just weren't paying attention much.
I wasn't
You
paying
had a
attention.
life. You had a life.
I wasn't paying attention, but at the end of the day, ghost hunting's not my thing. I don't believe in it at all, really.
Yeah.
And when Mom said, "Oh, I'm going to go ghost hunting," okay, cool. Is that code for something? Is that what's happening? I don't know. No, it's like the TV shows. All of those are just created for money.
Pretty much, but
But so, when did you decide to go do a ghost hunt?
well, and I had actually watched, and it's really hard for people your age to understand that when I was growing up, there were literally 5 TV stations.
Yes.
Okay. So you might get one ghost show a year
A decade.
in October kind of thing.
Yes.
But PBS would do documentaries on places like Poveglia Island off of the coast of Italy. That's a scary freaking place. Talk about a bucket list.
And they would always talk about, oh, this place is haunted.
Yeah, and in the 70s, they actually, golly, was it CBS? May have been ABC. I think it was CBS or ABC, actually. They televised an exorcism.
Oh.
Okay. So it's not like I was not watching them when I had the opportunity. But once Dish came around and you had Discovery and Travel
Yes.
Channel and
You had the
Destination
options.
America that were devoted, you had more opportunity to watch them. But yeah, that memory just kind of like,
Clicked, boom, popped
yeah, it really did kind of eventually click that maybe that's what that was. And at the time that I started that, Dad was traveling a lot with business.
in. Yeah.
Um,
There was free time. You had the free time.
you were
I was
driving.
doing my own thing school wise.
Yeah,
Didn't
Alex
always
was already
need
off
you.
living his life. Dad was traveling quite a bit with work and hunting and with his friends.
Fishing and all kinds of
All
stuff.
kinds of stuff.
It was, you needed a hobby.
I wasn't going to sit at home.
No, you
Yeah.
needed a hobby, and you chose a hobby and you dedicated to that hobby.
And I was working from home during that time frame too,
Okay.
which made it even easier
Yes.
because I was working for a company out of Salt Lake City from home. It was a marketing job that was project based, so I had time, I had opportunity. I had cash.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine reached out. They knew that I was interested and reached out and said, hey, by the way, I saw this event on Facebook, and we're talking like 2007, 2008-ish at this point in time.
Sure.
Pretty close to it.
Thought it'd be closer to 2010
It might have been 2009.
because I wasn't driving in 2007.
No.
I had only started driving in 2010
Okay, so I guess it had to be like 2000.
because it was my high school era when you really got into
2009,
this.
2010, somewhere in that time frame.
Because we didn't have Dish when I was in junior high.
Because we're at like roughly, I've been doing this for roughly 15 years.
Yes.
Like almost longer than I can really
It'd be
remember.
2010 then.
Yeah, so it's sometime in that time frame. And so they reached out and said, hey, I know you're interested in the paranormal. I saw that they're doing this event in Hyco, Texas. And, it was like, okay, if I want to do this, and at this point I really did want to go on a paranormal investigation, but I'm also smart enough to know that you don't jack with stuff you don't know about. So I kind of wanted to see what it was really about. Been watching the different shows and all that kind of stuff. So I had an idea about some of the things, the equipment they use and their theories and all that crap, because I've been watching it for a while.
And that is one thing both you and Dad share. When y'all get into a hobby, y'all learn before y'all do it first.
Yeah.
And then y'all are continuous in the learning and the doing and the learning and the doing.
Yeah. Well, my first thought too was, if I'm going to go ghost hunting, I need to do this in a public event type situation so I can see what kind of weirdos are going to show up.
Yes, you do.
Okay. I know. I'm a little weird myself, but I know my kind of weirdness. I don't know everyone else's.
Okay.
And that was one of my concerns, where you were going to end up with a bunch of weirdos.
Yes.
And so I went to this event, and it was downtown Hyco. And it was a public event. Okay, what you learn eventually, and here's the other thing about when you dive so deep into a hobby, you kind of develop, what would you call those? Some kind of snobbish behavior, because you know so much about it.
Well, it's not intentionally being snobbish,
I'm not intentionally,
but you understand.
It's whether you're serious or not.
Yes.
Basically. And
Mom's serious.
Mom's serious, so public events are not Mom's thing anymore.
But you did one.
I did it. I've done a lot, but yeah, that one I did.
And you went, okay, I did this. Then let's do another one, and another one, and another one.
Well, with that,
and then you had your own little group.
Yeah, the first one. Here's the key point from the very first one I did in Hyco. It was a public event, so I didn't know anybody there. It was my very first one. I didn't know anyone that was going to be there. I drove by myself from here.
Yeah.
In the Grandview area to Hyco.
In the Saturn View.
I guess so. I guess I did have the Saturn at that point. Not knowing who was going to be there, not knowing what's going on. Okay, I understand now, Brian. Bless your heart. I love you. I did not realize the stress that I put you in by doing these things.
To be fair, so a running joke in our family is the willingness to meet strangers on the internet that we call our friends that we've never seen. And this is shared by all of us because in like 2005, Dad went on a duck hunting trip to somewhere in the Midwest.
Oh, I think that was the one in Illinois, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
With 15 guys he had never met in person. And every single one of them had the same exact conversation. But then a few years later, here's Mom. Oh, I'm driving to go ghost hunting by myself to Hyco, Texas.
Which is what? 2 hours, 3 hours away?
It's like an hour and a half, really. But depending on how you drive, it can be longer.
It's a small town.
It's a small town, and
it's cool, too.
It has some history.
It's got a lot of history.
But it's just one of those things, and we all do it. I met a dude I've never took a dude down to go teach him how to scout for deer. Never met him. It could have been a crackhead, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a running joke in the family because we all do it.
Yeah. So that's what I did. And it was kind of an odd experience. The lady that was doing it is such a fake.
Now that you know.
Now that I know, did not know at that point in time. But anyway, there was one weirdo there, and that was okay. Everybody else was pretty much normal like I was. But we had gone around, we did an investigation in a building that they were remodeling, an old building, like from the 1800s when Hypo first started, kind of thing. And then we went down to the old jail and an antique store, that kind of thing.
It was more of a tour than a hunt.
Well, it was really more of an investigation than some of them are, though.
Okay.
And it wasn't very active. There wasn't anything really that made me go, I definitely want to do this. Oh, this is so exciting. It was not that. But as I was leaving, these two ladies that I had been interacting with throughout the evening were like, I made some, as we were walking back to our cars, they were like, so what did you think? And I'm like, really? I understand that paranormal activity does not happen on demand all the time. It's not an entertainment source. But having said that, I can tell you, I think a lot of what happened tonight was people's imaginations getting away with them. People wanting something to happen. And their names were Regina and Rhonda.
Regina, Georgina, and Rhonda.
Yeah. And so it was hilarious because when I said that, they looked at each other. They had been doing it for a while. They had been ghost hunting for a while. So they looked at each other and kind of gave that, okay, we're good to go. Looked at me and said, come on, let me show you what this is really about. And we went back to the initial building and went upstairs, which we didn't do before.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there. Regina is a psychic medium. She can talk to spirits. Spirits talk to her. That kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay? And Rhonda's just like I am.
A normie.
Equipment. Huh?
You're a normie.
A normie. Yeah, definitely a normie. And we're sitting up there, and Regina's talking about picking up on this lady in the back area. But what she is seeing is a scene that looks like a kitchen from like the 1900s, 1910s era. Based on this is what she's saying. I don't know. I can't see it.
Yeah, you're a normie. You're a rookie too.
Yeah, but we're doing the typical. Can you knock 3 times to prove you're here?
Much more thorough investigation.
We're getting interaction.
Yes.
We're doing dowsing rods, and we're getting answers that make sense. And then Rhonda, we're sitting on the floor in this dusty old building, right? And Rhonda goes, hang on. And she goes, can you finish this for me? And reaches down and knocks 3 times on her leg. The shave and a haircut,
Yeah.
Okay. So she does shave and then she gets the haircut kind of thing, okay? And I'm dying. At this point, I'm kind of like, your leg doesn't sound like, she's an amputee.
I bet that was that.
Oh my God, it was hilarious. She lost that leg in a car accident. And she died laughing at my expression because I don't know these women. So I'm trying to do
strangers from the internet.
Appropriate thing. It was hilarious. And after that, that's really what got me hooked on it. I came home, did some research.
Mom went, I made ghost hunting friends. What are ghost hunting friends?
Yeah, I did some research when I got home and found documentation that building at that particular time frame that Regina was picking up on did actually have a residence upstairs.
Okay. Cool
beans. I can do this. And so, yeah, that was my first experience.
Then cue the Long Island medium and all the medium. This was more when you got, I think, meeting her spurred into the medium area of your learning interest. Yes.
Yeah, in learning. Yeah,
because it was shortly after that. Before that, you were mostly ghost hunters. Then you diverge also into medium at the same time, same pace.
Yeah,
I will say I am not a fan of Long Island medium or most
Teresa's
medium shows.
Cool. I like Teresa Caputo's show.
So you did that. They invited you back, or did you ask to go back with them? Because you had
the lady that put on that particular event, and I will not say her name because
Good.
I will not do anything to promote her in any way, shape, and form because she is nothing but a cheat and a fake.
okay.
That was the first group that I was so active and involved with for 3 months.
Okay.
Doesn't take me long to figure out you're full of shit and I'm gone.
Yeah, because I remember you were part of this group, then you left that quickly, then kind of went into another group.
And left that one in about 3 months for the same reasons. And then it's screw it. I don't need a group. I got people that I know that like to do this and we can do this that are real.
Form your own group. Your
Oh yeah,
clique.
that one. Yeah. But the lady that set up that initial event in Hyco had another event and was looking to put together a team, if you will, air quotes again, because in her head, her delusional head, she was going to have her own TV show.
Yeah.
That was her whole goal.
That was her goal.
That was her goal.
Okay, so you did that.
Did that.
Then you formed your new clique, your new team of ghost hunters, and you were very active for ghost hunting. I mean, you're talking a span of 5 years. You were gone often.
At least 2 or 3 weekends, even sometimes during the day, because I was doing residential investigations at that point.
Yeah, and
But that's where I met my best friend ever, Rachel.
yes,
We were part of that first group,
okay.
that first team. Yeah.
And you did a show, not a show. There was a convention up in Dallas or Fort Worth, one of the two, where Dad and I came and met you, and you were doing something ghost hunting related. It was ended up kind of being more of like an anime convention. Do you remember that? Because you bought something there.
Ooh, I've been presenting at Paracons for so long.
I don't think it was a Paracon. It was the way you had described it when you first told us was like this is going to be like Paracon, but when you got there, it was more Halloween kind of horror.
Okay.
Anime.
Yeah, and there's a difference between paranormal and horror. Okay?
Yeah,
there really is.
Do you remember that one? Because
I do. It was at Will Rogers Coliseum.
Yes.
And it was the one year that Brandy had the Spooktacular at Will Rogers Coliseum.
Okay.
Instead of in Granbury.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was actually set up there doing chair massage.
Okay.
So that I could actually attend the event for my hobby as a business expense because I was providing chair massage. I really was. I was working.
Dad and I went and
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, because
it was not our cup of tea. There was some cool booths. There were some really artistic booths.
There's a lot of artists there. Yeah.
But I also wanted to punch that kid dressed up as it.
Yeah. That was kind of a combination cosplay, Paracon. It really was not Paracon.
It wasn't.
And horror.
Okay.
It was an interesting mix. But that's what Brandy does. She does an interesting mix. And I will tell you, Brandy is awesome. If you're in Granbury, take her Granbury Ghost Tour. It's friggin' awesome. And I have investigated almost every place that's on her tour, and it is active and it is authentic.
Okay.
And that's the thing with Brandy.
So, but you've been invited many times for Paracons to speak.
Yes.
Because you are, I don't know what level you are, if you're high level, low level, but you are being invited to speak at Paracons. That's not low level, in my opinion.
No, it's not. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to explain,
I know.
But yeah, I have been doing Paracon events and speaking as a presenter and putting on. We do Paranormal University in Marlin, Texas, 3 or 4 times a year. We've been doing that since the beginning.
Yes.
And that's an interesting story because the way I was introduced to the Palace Theater in Marlin, Texas was through the initial group. And then I found out that they were not paying the Palace Theater like they had told them they would. So that was the reason we were getting access initially. And then they weren't paying, even though we were giving money to this individual to pay the
I
theater
got you.
for the location rental, if you will. And I didn't know that for the first year that I was out there. And
Is Palace Theater in Marlin?
it's in Marlin.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you always going to Marlin.
Always going to Marlin.
And one of the reasons Marlin was a big deal, and because one of our good friends, Elfrez,
Yes.
lives on the outskirts of.
He went to high school in Marlin.
Yeah, but he lives on the outskirts of Marlin. It's one of those things. He's ex-Marine or something. If Dad called him and said, "Hey, go rescue my wife from these ghosts," Elfrez is going to show up and beat the crap out of some ghosts for you.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. You probably shouldn't wander the streets of Marlin at 2 a.m. I'm just saying.
Probably not, but there's a family friend or someone we know close enough generally.
Generally, yeah.
Okay, so you got to this level. This also kind of about the time I started this family joke. So my mother has ghost white hair and has always had ghost white hair.
Not always, but as long as Logan can remember.
As long as anyone in Grandview can remember. So I call her official title now is the White Wiccan of Cleburne.
You're so goofy.
And it makes sense. It just kind of, the joke evolved with Mom's ghost hunting because, oh, she's hunting ghosts.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like something a Wiccan would do, Mom.
Wiccans don't hunt ghosts.
And the fact that she knows that, and Mom makes really good cough syrup from scratch, so concoctions and everything.
Yeah.
But and that's just
Mom's
Mom's hobby played so well into that joke. That's one of the reasons I love it worked.
Well, it's probably one of the reasons I'm so drawn to it is I do very much believe in the natural and the supernatural.
And so we're going to call it here. We've been talking for about an hour and 22 minutes on recorded. We had about 15-minute time period where we had some problems. So that is the legend of the White Wiccan from Cleburne, Georgina Holzmeyer. If y'all like this content, please subscribe. We are trying to get better about doing more of these. Anything you want to add, Mom?
No, not necessarily, but I will tell you, being a Holzmeyer is a full-time commitment.
There's nothing better than being a Holzmeyer. When you meet a Holzmeyer, your day gets better no matter what, no matter which Holzmeyer.
I would agree with that. I would agree.
So if y'all want to hear Mom or have Mom come back on, let us know. Mom, you actually had a podcast, Topic Paranormal, right?
Yeah, Topic Paranormal.
Is it still up and going, or is it?
It is not. I was doing that for about a year and a half, and then Granny got sick.
Okay.
And when my mom got sick, it takes a lot of work to do a podcast. If you're not familiar with it, if you don't do it, it takes a lot. And I was doing an episode a week.
Yes. We actually recorded one here on Bigfoot.
Yes, we did. And it was one of those situations where I was recording, I was doing a podcast. We were on astronetradio.net, and COVID hit. And
you're actually on Spotify, aren't you?
Yeah, we were on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you could get a podcast, we were on. But between COVID and then Granny getting sick.
Yeah, I know. And then you bought Amani and business took over.
Business. Yeah, I bought.
So, but if you want to hear more about Mom's
individual experiences
or get involved in it, her podcast, Topic Paranormal, with all her friends, is a good place to start.
And it's still out there on YouTube. We do still have that YouTube channel. You can find those. I can't remember. It's like 60 or 70 episodes that are out there. And it's on all of the investigations that we did. Most of them were not filmed, but recorded on location. And if you're into ghost hunting, there's a couple of them you can hear the EVPs during, not the EVPs that we captured on investigation, but as we were podcasting and recording, we had spirits speaking.
And Mom's also been on Big Honker podcast with Jeff.
That was fun.
Andy, and she's probably going to be on it in the future. If y'all want to go listen to her over there. But we're going to go through every legend within this family. my brother's next, and probably my grandfather. We got to get that worked out. So, but that's the end of this. This was 1584 Adventure. If you could, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.